Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Nick, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about something that happened here recently and what we had to do regarding a vet visit. So the first thing is the gecko that had to go to the vet is Pam, and Pam is usually the gecko that I seem to hold the most in a lot of my videos. And what was happening and I don't have her out right now. This is Benny. I don't have her out because she just went to the vet yesterday, and I don't really want to mess with her all that much right now. Just kind of letting her chill. Going to the vet it can be a very stressful experience for these guys, just like shipping can be stressful. So you have to be aware that if your animal gets out of the tank for that long, I mean, she was at the vet for I think it was almost 2 hours. So drive time and everything included, it was about 2.5 hours, almost 3 hours before she was back in her home. So it is definitely something that's a very long time to be out of their element, and it is stressful on them. So I'm giving her some time to kind of chill. Now, why did I take her to the vet? Okay, so recently, Pam is usually a gecko that I put food in there, and probably every third feeding she will lick the bowl clean. Now, about a month ago, it went from licking the bowl clean to barely, kind of like you could see her tongue was in there at times, to not touching it at all over the course of a month. Luckily, she hasn't lost much weight other than when she just last laid eggs. So while it is concerning, I have put in crickets for her to hunt, and because I put crickets in there, I don't know how many she's eaten because I dump in probably a dozen or 2 dozen in there at a time, since we only give them to them. We give them about 12 to 2 dozen crickets in their 30-gallon little tubs every 2 weeks or so. So it's one of those things where I'm seeing less crickets, so I know she's eating some crickets, but I'm worried that she's not eating her crested gecko diet as much. And I wasn't too worried about her going off food for a little bit. This will happen from time to time with the geckos, but something happened that kind of really freaked me out. Was I picked her up one day and she started shaking, okay? And it was not like a seizure or anything like that, but it was almost like she didn't have control over her muscles. So knowing the little bit that I know about these guys, I know that is usually a calcium deficiency issue, right? So to me, I'm going, what's the deal with the calcium issue? Because her eggs look perfect. There's nothing wrong with her eggs. But if she shakes like that, that tells me it's calcium deficiency. So I tried to check her calc sacs, which is the sacs in the back of their throat. I'll put a little photo up here. And she was just biting my hand. And once again, guys, it comes to a point where you don't want to stress these animals out way too much, right? So I didn't mess with her for too long. I don't have the tools that a vet has, so I decided to take her to the vet to see. I really just wanted them to check her calc sacs and them to do a physical on her to make sure, because she's Pangea, she gets dusted crickets. Now, one thing that I will say is that over the past probably 6-7 months or so, I've cut back on crickets for my larger female adults quite significantly. And I'm starting to think that was the wrong decision, and I think I'm going to do a video on that. I was doing it because they were at an age, or not an age, they're at a weight where I didn't really want them to keep gaining. And while I think that in my mind that made sense, and I had, seen and read about it in other places, and it made sense, I think that not having those dusted crickets and being used to having them could have done something to her potentially. And once again, now I'm back on the crickets, and we're back to doing that. We've been doing that for 2 months now, where they're getting crickets very often, because I don't want to have this happen, and I don't know if that's the reason, but I've also started to kind of come to, I had somebody reach out to me, someone who I think is very smart and probably knows a lot more about these guys than I do, and they were like, hey, you say don't feed crickets past a certain weight, but maybe that's not the best thing. So anyway, I'm going to do a video on that, but back to Pam. So I told the vet, I was like, hey, she's been a little lethargic in the sense of she's not eating. So I'm worried that she's not moving as much, because if they're moving a lot, then they're probably going to be eating a lot. Like I said, she was a gecko who cleaned the bowl. So it's a little freaky for me, and I know it's not a temperature thing, because we keep all of our geckos in one room and they all eat. If everybody else if everything's the same level to begin with, and then one gecko's not eating, usually it's not going to be your temperatures. If none of your geckos are eating, then it could be your temperatures, and it could be humidity or something, especially if they're all kept in the same environment. With the muscle shaking, like I said, I was worried it was calcium deficiency. I couldn't check her. The vet, so Megan took him to the vet, or took Pam to the vet. They got her there, they were looking at her, and they said that physically, like body-wise and everything, she's very healthy. Externally, they said there's just nothing that we can go off of, and she goes, she's well hydrated, that's a big thing, guys. A lot of deaths involving reptiles, usually by the end stages, or at some point, dehydration becomes a huge deal. So for the vet to say she's hydrated, that made me kind of relax a little bit. The vet also said that she really was not acting very, she was very alert. She responded to, all the tests that we did and everything. And right now we're not allowed to be in with our vets. We have to wait at the car. So it does kind of suck because we can't see what they're doing. But anyway, that's just part of the world we live in right now. So the vet also said that she looks healthy. Her weight is healthy. She doesn't see anything wrong. She goes internally, she's like, I don't think it's parasites, and I don't either think it's parasites because, one, she has still been pooping, and her poops don't smell like the worst things in the world, and she's not, once again, she hasn't been if she was eating her bowls clean and losing weight, now I'm worried it's a parasite. But she's not even really eating that much, and she hasn't really lost that much weight. I just am not comfortable with the way she's been acting, so I decided to take her to the vet. At the end of it all, Pam, the vet, decided, so the vet tried to check her calc sacs. Or when I say calc sacs, guys, that's calcium sacs. I put the photo up earlier, but she tried to check, but she said that this girl was not opening her jaw at all. The vet did recommend that I do, and it's one of those things too where I'm totally against this, but the vet said that I should try to do some sort of hand feeding, some sort of assist feeding. And I made a video on why I'm against it, and I still am against it. But I do think that I took the proper steps before having to get to this point. Took her to the vet. We waited. We're putting in 2 food bowls right now. One up high, one down low for her. Hoping she picks one spot. I'm assist feeding a little bit with a syringe. But what I think I'm going to do is, I don't have it. Oh, yes, I do. It's this. I don't even know if it's called a syringe, but it's just this little thing. So what I'm doing is I'm keeping her in her tank. I'm putting her food bowl down, and I'm dripping the food kind of on her nose and hoping she kind of picks it up. I'm not holding her and hand feeding her. I'm kind of trying to make sure she's still in the same setting that she would be in, but also, not, and maybe trying to find it, trying to get that smell back, trying to get her something to motivate her to want to eat again. The vet said, though, she was worried about the shaking, that's the biggest thing that I'm worried about, is the shaking. It hasn't happened in a week now. I mean, because I got the vet appointment as soon as I could, and the vets are packed right now, and reptile vets are few and far between, it seems. But she said that does alert her to a calcium issue. So we're getting a drops for her that the vet's going to prescribe. And I really hope that this is the answer, and I hope that she starts acting like the Pam of old again and getting back to it, because and here's the thing too, guys, is that vet visit all in for the checkup and everything was $66. That's not that much money, and it was well worth it, especially for my peace of mind, because at least my whole thing is when this situation like this happens where you feel like your animal's getting sick or you're worried about your animal, human nature, at least for me, is to think the worst is happening and she's gonna die, and that breaks my heart. That hurts my heart to think that. So for me, taking her to the vet, I'm trying to do as many precautions as I can because I don't want any of that to happen, and we're gonna do everything we can in our power to make sure that that doesn't happen. She might be taking the year off of breeding at this point. I'm not pairing her again this year. She's been living alone, so I don't know. We'll see. I'm not totally concerned about her because I think she's been acting very normal, but I am a little freaked out about it just because that is my animal. That's one of my babies, and it really sucks to go through that. And so I know a lot of you have lost geckos out there and things like that, and it sucks and it hurts and it sucks. So we're doing everything we can to keep Pam here, and that's my #1 goal right now. But Benny's chilling. Benny looks good. Benny actually laid her first set of eggs for us not too long ago. Pretty cool. Never be ashamed to take your vet to the What? Yeah, don't be ashamed to take your vets to the geckos, you know, no. Don't be ashamed to take your geckos to the vet. Things happen and it sucks, but you just gotta do everything you can. And honestly, reptile vets are cheaper than dog vets. You know, it's usually just a lower price point. So, just something to consider. If you feel like your gecko needs a visit, do it. Do a fecal test if you can. If you can find some, great. But it's just one of those things where do everything you can, especially if you're somewhat worried. If you're somewhat worried, then there is a potential there's an issue there. So just do everything in your power. You know, that's what we're doing. And I'm going to keep you guys updated on Pam. I'm going to show you how I give her the drops once it comes in and all that. But I just don't want, I just want to be honest with you guys and be open with you, because if it happens to me, it happens to you, and it's just real. You know, it's part of the hobby. It's part of keeping. So with that said, hit that like button, subscribe, and until next time, guys, stay safe and stay positive.